Hi, I'm Dr. Goble and this is Tranzfuture. I'm a specialist in treating ADHD and bad behavior in general. Now today I've got a question for you. Is your child ADHD or is your child actually indigo or crystal? So what do I mean by this? Well, in my experience, I've treated over 1,000 children with supposedly ADHD, but actually 85% of those were misdiagnosed with ADHD. And they are actually indigo or crystal, a crystal child or an indigo child, which is a very different concept to ADHD. It's a very positive thing and it's a spiritual thing. So we're going to talk about that now. So what people generally perceive as an indigo or a crystal child, I term super sensitive. Now what that means is that they're highly evolved and have heightened senses, and most, if not all of those senses are activated at once. Now this can cause conflict for the child. I'm going to give you an example. Let's suppose your child is in a classroom and is talking away to his friend, but is also at the same time listening to the teacher give a presentation about a certain subject. The child is actually listening 100% to the teacher whilst talking to his friend, but it comes across as being distracted or distracting, which is where the ADHD criteria comes in. So they can be completely misunderstood. Now, supersensitive has various character traits that correlate with Nancy Tappe's definition of an indigo child, which she developed back in the 80s. Now there is a full-blown movement after the publication of Carroll and Tober's book, The Indigo Children, The New Kids Have Arrived. Now this was published back in 1999. Now I can provide you with a comparative table of these character traits between Carroll and Tober, myself, and the DSM-4. What's the DSM-4? Well, the DSM-4 is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and it's the 4th edition. It's what the American psychiatry use to determine whether somebody is ADHD or not. Now, if you'd like that information, I just need you to send me an email and I'll happily send you that comparative. And you can see for yourself where these correlations are and why it's so easy to misdiagnose someone with ADHD. But I'm going to give you now the main correlations. So a strong sense of self is one of the first ones. And what is right and wrong? This creates a huge amount of conflict for your child usually, because they don't tend to follow instructions so well unless they are actually convinced that it's in their benefit to do it. If they think it's not, they won't do it, or you'll have a huge battle, as I'm sure you agree, to get them to do it. No? But they really do know what's wrong and what's right. So it's very difficult to fool them. They can read you like an open book. Now, following instructions, as I've mentioned before, can be quite a challenge for them, especially if it's unstimulating or unchallenging, like some of the more mainstream education systems at this time. If you haven't really engaged in the child's motivation, they're not going to follow you. You're going to lose them. So it is really important to engage that motivation, and for it to be really stimulating, for it to really challenge their intelligence. They are super sensitive, but they're also super intelligent. So you really do have to gauge in that intelligence. Now, another trait, common trait, is problems with socialization when it comes to peers. When that child finds itself with a child with a lower consciousness who's less aware of things, they tend to disassociate themselves with that child or that group of children. So they kind of get sidelined a bit. But they also have a very strong will to be the leader, and they want to be the leader all the time. And other children get fed up with that. No, they don't always want them to be the leader. So again, these two problems can cause some conflict, which can come across as an ADHD characteristic. Now, understandably, supersensitive or indigo children have been misdiagnosed for these reasons. No? So it is important to take that into consideration, no? To take that fact that, yes, there is a DSM-4 criteria, but there are other criteria in which need to be double checked to really make sure you don't go down the ADHD path unnecessarily. No? So if your child is indigo or is super sensitive, the next question I have for you is, why are these children so different? Now, based on my own clinical and personal experience, to answer that question fully, it's important to understand what is actually an indigo child. So Nancy Tappe noted back in the 90s that the energy field or the aura of a child is predominantly indigo in this case. No? So if it's an indigo child, it's because they have a predominantly indigo color in their energy field. Now for a clairvoyant, or what she perceived, was that they also have very powerful gifts of perception and an important role to play in changing the way we live at this present time. Now, I hear you say, what, she can tell all that by looking at his energy field? Well, yeah, actually, a very good clairvoyant can read all these things. Now, this concept has been developed into a big movement and has evolved somewhat. So there are now some other types of children that are emerging. So we've got the crystal child. Now, crystal child is usually where there is a large penetrating eyes, and they can usually read you like an open book. No? Again, they have a strong desire to help others and animals and look after animals, especially they have a great empathy there. And if a clairvoyant was to look at the energy field, they would see a crystal-like energy field. It would be the color of a crystal. No? And then the last generation, or the latest generation, is the rainbow child. Now, the rainbow child is, by definition, the embodiment of our divinity and an example of full human potential. This is their first lifetime on the planet Earth. Now, that's different to crystal children and indigo children. They have had lots of other lives and therefore very wise. The rainbow children have come direct from God or from heaven, if you want to call it, and have a very strong connection with unconditional love, because after all, that's what God is, and that's what heaven is, no? Unconditional love. It's a place of unconditional love. So they always have a real strong desire to try and treat things with unconditional love, especially Mother Earth. Now, this creates huge conflict for them because obviously on this plane, at this moment in time, everything is far from unconditional. It's very conditional and there's not that much love involved. No? So this creates a huge conflict in the child's soul, and that can then manifest itself as ADHD type behavior. So there's been a huge spiritual evolution in the human race over 15 to 20 years. Why? Why has that happened? Well, again, we're going to look at some common traits in their evolution. Enhanced senses and perception, unconditional love, and a desire to care for the planet and all life. Now, there are prophecies that say that there is a big change for the human existence about to take place. And those children are a fundamental part in that collective change or that collective transformation. So, to take that a step further, all human life needs to be one with what the Chinese call the Grand Pulse and what the Mayans call the Hanab Kul, which is the Great Spirit. So, in other words, God, no? Or unconditional love. So when they are aligned to it, there is great harmony and automatic individual and collective ascension or transcendence. Now, I'm using some very deep concepts here, but we're talking about the child's soul. and the child's here for a reason. Every human being is here for a reason. They have a mission to carry out through their lives. No? Some people have that very clear, and lots of others really aren't sure what their mission is or why they are here. No? Why don't they know? It's because they're disconnected with the one or source or the unconditional love. Now, these children are naturally attuned to this unconditional love source and unconsciously show, usually parents and other adults, their own path of ascension through the child's own light. Now, some call these children light workers. So basically, it's like a great big sun that is also a mirror. So by being the way they are, a parent may have a conflict with that child, but then becomes to realize that they are actually seeing something negative in themselves that they need to modify or they need to evolve on. No? That's what we mean by that. So if you'd like to find out more how you can help your child be more aligned to source or this unconditional love, or in fact yourselves, then send me an email and I can give you some guidance on how to do so through our program TranzFuture. Now, what can you expect if you do align yourself with this force? Well, expect an enhanced natural energetic connection with the unconditional love, which in turn will bring the child greater harmony, and everything in the space of the child will also be automatically put into more harmony. It'll also activate their full potential. So all their gifts in terms of perception and art maybe, and other potentials, you'll find a huge intelligence there once they're fully aligned, that we can really take advantage and let that child flourish and grow into that beautiful flower it commands to be. No? Now, I put my professional reputation on what I'm saying. I take what I'm saying very seriously because I have seen it clinically. Okay, I've gone a lot more spiritual, but it is important to take in other paradigms when you are working with children, because it's not just about the mind. You know, the human being is a very complex and deep system that needs to be fully understood by taking in different methodologies, like the Chinese medicine model and like the Mayan harmonic model or module model. That's why I'm using these examples to help really make it very clear as to why the children are the way they are and what needs to be done with these children. Okay? Now, if your intuition is nagging at you to try TranzFuture or to find out more about TranzFuture, then I suggest you follow that through. It's always a very good thing to follow your intuition. And you and your child can enjoy the infinite benefits of what TranzFuture can do for you in terms of your child's spirituality. So I leave it to your intuition. I'm Dr. Mark Goble. It's been a pleasure sharing this information with you. I look forward to coaching with you soon. And if you'd like more information, just send me an email. I look forward to hearing from you soon.